Hi, welcome to the SVG Basics topic video. What's our objective here? We want to understand SVG as a good example of another markup language and learn the various uses of SVG on the web. We're going to learn to use SVG as standalone files, embedded in HTML, and reference from HTML. And we're going to see what SVG can do just a little bit, by learning the basic SVG shape elements. References. MDM has a pretty good SVG tutorial. Also see they have got a SVG element reference. There's some nice primers. Some of them are a little out of date when it comes to browsers. All browsers support SVG well now. I recommend these references. Take a look. Okay. SVG is used in drawing programs. Inkscape is a fairly high-end, or really high-end, free open source drawing program. Okay, that requires installation. I'm not saying you have to do anything. I use Inkscape to draw simple diagrams such as this. Okay, here we go. Here's the client. Here's the browser. We're going to be seeing this diagram later when we do have to set up when we're doing both our application server and our clients in the browser, developing those together. Okay, so basic block diagrams, that's what I use Inkscape for. In the hands of a real artist, all sorts of things are possible. I know that looks like an image, okay, but it's not. It's SVG. How do we know? We're going to take a look inside. Okay. Start element, SVG. The end of the file is the end element, SVG. Though we're not going to cover it, SVG provides provides grouping of a nest of elements. So all of the main drawing elements here are actually grouped together in layers, in a sense. Okay, but this is the kind of stuff a real artist can do with that program. Okay, I can't teach you that. Okay, SVG Edit. This is an in-browser basic drawing program, which is pretty good. So it's built with SVG. So do your typical drawing stuff and things like that. Blah, blah, blah. Change colors. Whatever you'd like to do. This is built with SVG. It produces SVG, and it's built using SVG and JavaScript and CSS and the whole 9 yards. The stuff that we're learning in this class. We can go from extremely complicated vector graphics, like an artist would produce, to very simple things that I might produce. Okay. Scalable vector graphics. What does it mean? There are two main types of graphic formats used on the web: raster graphics and vector graphics. Raster graphic formats include JPEG, like you use a lot with your cell phone when you take pictures with your cell phone camera. PNG, we use a lot when we take screenshots, and a new one called WebP, which is actually supposed to be better than the other two as far as compression and quality. Okay, there's only one main vector format on the web, okay, and that's SVG. So we don't have competing formats for vector graphics. There are a variety of proprietary formats used in high-quality drawing programs. So if you were using Adobe Illustrator, it would have its own format, but it could I'm sure it can export to SVG, since that's so commonly used in the web. Okay, so as we saw before, it's used in Used in diagrams, art drawings. So for diagrams, okay. I use it when I used to teach a graduate course in networking to display communications networks. So here we've got these communication networks. We've got links between the switching nodes. We're not adding anything there. So this is a program that I wrote for my grad students and undergrads to use a little bit when we were doing network design. Okay, so all this diagram over here is done in SVG. I added the features to be able to go to add, to draw some simple drawing. Okay, so here I add a node called high class. Okay, great. Okay, data visualization. Okay, what do I mean by data visualizations? All these great graphics and less great graphics we see on the web are produced with SVG, and there's a library, a JavaScript library called D3, known as Data-Driven Documents. It's used to produce all these high-quality graphics you might see displayed in the web. Okay, so unfortunately, it's used for good things, and for displaying things like pandemic information too. So here's just a huge gallery of what's been produced with D3, Data-Driven Documents Library, and underneath that is SVG. In fact, what makes D3 so hard to program is it assumes that you know JavaScript well, SVG fairly well, and CSS fairly well, because it uses all three to produce things. It does. So it adds on to their capabilities. Icons. Icons on web pages? What do we mean by that? Here's an open source library of icons. These folks at Feather. There are other open source libraries. There's closed source libraries. These are all these nice little indicator things, okay, that we get. Okay, so I downloaded this one, Cloud Rain. Okay, I'm not going to download it again. So what does it look like inside? Let's go take a look over here. SVG. Oh, let's see if I can pretty it up. It's beautiful. Does it know how to prettify it? Yes, it does. We see there's some lines. We see there's a path. It looks kind of like HTML in the sense it's got tags and attributes. Okay, this is a very small file. That's it. 6 lines. When I downloaded it, it said something. It was under 500 bytes, not kilobytes, bytes individually. These are used for graphics. Okay. Icons. So we get all these icons like you see me playing with right here. It's used for things like that. Why bother in this class? Okay. It's a very good example of another markup language in addition to HTML. It works the same way. It can be styled and more via CSS. So you can modify the looks of an SVG diagram, image, whatever, diagram, drawing, etc. via CSS. It can be created and modified via the JavaScript DOM and also React. So this is me, and all the stuff you're seeing here is me using JavaScript to change and edit an SVG drawing of a very limited type. Okay, I wasn't trying to make a general drawing editor like the SVG edit books. Okay, so you can program with it. Okay? You can make games with it. Okay, things that we won't cover. Okay, so this isn't a computer graphics class, so we're not going to cover some really nifty, powerful features, transforms, viewports, view boxes, filters, all sorts of cool things that artists also use. Okay, nor are we going to go into the details of the path element, which is quite elaborate. Okay, Bezier curves and such. Gradients, brushes, symbols, blah, blah, blah. We just want to understand how this works and feel comfortable with it. Okay, so how do we use this on the web? Okay, it's its own standalone file format. So here's an example of SVG. Okay, this is what the file format looks like. It starts with SVG. Notice it's got, instead of having doc type and any of that stuff, it has this weird little thing, XML, which this stands for is XML namespace, and it points to SVG. Okay, this basically is another way of telling a browser or whoever how to interpret this file. So if we go and click on this, I'm going to open it in a new tab. We're seeing the SVG is coming to us. Let's see, standalone SVG. So the file extension is SVG. The browser knows how to handle it. We bring up our development tools. Look here. We can go through. We can highlight the circle. We can highlight the rectangle. It's part of the DOM, the document object model. Okay, just like HTML. Okay, full control. Enough of that page. I want to leave the page. Thank you for. Okay, so we can deal with it in standalone format. Also, we can incorporate it inline in HTML. So here's an HTML document. Within the body, right there inline is SVG. Okay, let's open this guy up in a new tab. Take a look. SVG and HTML. Nice. So it's a standalone file format. We can put it inline in HTML. What else can we do? We can reference it in HTML. Okay, so we can use the image element or an object element. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so here is guitar fretboard diagrams, each one. Demonstrate a basic type of music chord on guitar. First image. Oh, we say img source equals guitar.svg. So this is a valid image format, file format, that the image element can bring in. Then there's another way via this object element. I haven't talked about it much. We have to tell it the type it's bringing in, and then we tell it link to the data and such like that. Okay, open up your browser's development tools to see the difference. Okay, so let's go back up. Let's click on reference in HTML, open up that file. We could download the file too. Okay. Oh, look at this. We got guitar fretboard diagrams right in our HTML. So okay, how did we get them? Okay, not there, not there. Okay, so here's the image version. Okay, we asked for it to bring it in and it brought down the image. Okay. Let's go to the object version. I'm using my inspector. Ooh. Look at that. It actually brings it in and allows me to see all the individual pieces. The lines that represent guitar strings, the lines that represent the guitar frets, and finally, those little circle things. Okay, so the object really brings it in, which means we could then do manipulations on it, because if it's in the DOM like this, we know we can get to it from JavaScript. Well, we will learn how to get to it from JavaScript. Sorry, we have not learned that yet, so you do not know that yet. Okay, cool, eh? Oh, what? Directly in Markdown, SVG is a permitted HTML element in Markdown. So if you have a markdown previewer or something that supports the common mark standard as a minimum, it says we can put it straight into Markdown. Where do we have? Oh, that's right. Let's try putting it straight into one of our. This is a Markdown-based message. Can I include SVG? Let's try it. I copied it. Let's try. Cool! I can drop guitar diagrams right in there. Let me send it. Ooh, so we've got that. We're able to send that nice graphic embedded as text. Can I include SVG? The answer was yes. Let's go back and take a look then about using that little icon. Let's try taking that icon that I downloaded from the Feather people. Let's just paste that right in. Oh, nifty. That artist came up with a cool, minimal way to show us a rain cloud. To me, that takes as much effort as the super fancy things, because here they are giving us a representation using as little information as necessary. Nice, clean graphic. Okay, so for nice things to click on, okay, or to show, icons are good with SVG. So we have a number of ways to use this stuff now. Okay, let's learn about some simple shapes. Okay, SVG, like HTML, has a coordinate system where X increases to the right, okay, and Y increases down. I know that's the opposite of the Y is the opposite of how we graphed everything. We were taught to graph everything from high school through college to wherever, okay? But that's how many graphic coordinate systems work. So it's not SVG's fault, and it's the same in HTML when we get into positioning and CSS. CSS, that'll matter to us, okay? How do we draw a line? Well, would you believe we just say line? We give it the starting coordinates as a pair, x1, y1. This is 2D graphics too. I should have said that before. SVG is for 2D graphics. Okay. So we have x1, y1, which is the start, and x2, y2, which is the finish. We can give it attributes like a color. Okay. Popular attributes are such as stroke, which is the color, stroke width, stroke dash line array, stroke dash offset, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Some line examples, okay, code. So we've got a black line, a red line, a blue line, a purple line. And instead of putting it someplace else, let's just try throwing it into our one of our messages from our class messaging thing. Okay, so let's try. Woohoo! Nifty drawing. Interesting. What's more interesting is the order in which these things ended up. Okay. Nifty. All right. Lines. As simple as that. You want to create a line? Okay. You can set the width. You can set if it's got a dash array, etc. All sorts of properties. Okay. You need to be an artist to take it, or learn more about the arts of things. Rectangles. Okay. Attributes. Starting left corner, width and height. Additional attributes. You can round the radius, the corners, by giving them radius for the X and Y corners of the rectangle. Okay, many different things here. We've got fill. We have both the stroke for the outline and the fill for the inside color. Okay, let's take an example here. Let's take that code. Let's go over to let's replace all that stuff. Ooh, cool. Notice There's transparency available with all the color spaces. Okay. HTML supports pretty nifty colors with transparencies. SVG has even more stuff. Okay. Rounded colors. Okay. This is without strokes. This is with the stroke being dashed, etc., etc. You're getting the idea. This can do a lot. Okay. Circles. Circles be easy. Okay. Example, the center. Okay. Tag, circle. Okay. You give it the coordinates of the center and you give it a radius. Like rectangles, you'll have fill and you'll have stroke. Then there's a lot of stuff you can do with the fill and a lot of things you can do with the stroke. Okay. Ellipses. Okay. We've got centers, radius X, radius Y. Okay. I start getting confused with all these nifty, cool things, so I'm not going to try and explain exactly what all those mean. Let's just try it out. You can also take this stuff and look at it. Oops, not there. Oh, sorry, this isn't Markdown. Let me go to a Markdown document. We can take this stuff, throw it straight into a Markdown document too. Look at all those nifty ellipses. You're going, Professor, how does your simple brackets editor know how to render such elaborate SVG? Good question. A lot of editors, very, very fancy code editors, wouldn't be able to. However, brackets, Visual Studio Code, and Atom are built on browsers. Okay, they use a piece of some open source parts from Chrome to create the app itself. So it's got all the built-in power that the browser has for rendering HTML. Okay, so that's why you can see these things if you do this. If you have a Markdown previewer in Atom, you've got one in Visual Studio Code, it'll be able to show you full-on stuff like this because both of them, all three of these, are based on browser technology. Okay, so a lot of the programming you're going to be learning in this class and other classes, web classes, can help you create very elaborate applications like these editors you're seeing. Okay. Ellipse example code. Okay. What else? Polylines and polygons. Okay, so that means the difference between the two is, do you close it in the shape? Okay. Polylines, a set of points. Polygons, set of points. Okay, polyline, polygon example. Let's copy some of that code. Let's try it out over here. Everything should be nice. Ooh, look, little star, squiggly line. Cool. Okay, I'll send a message. Now I've got it. We can send that stuff. Okay. Polylines, polygons. Where else do they use this stuff? Oh, that's right. This is an interactive class. Maps. Okay. They use SVG a lot as overlays on maps. Okay. Or to show you boundaries. They don't use it for satellite images. It's not a raster format. But to do boundaries and a lot of other pieces with maps, SVG is used. Okay. The path element in SVG can create very complicated shapes. Okay. By combining straight lines, multiple straight line and curved line segments. Okay. The shape of a path is defined by one attribute, D. It contains a series of subcommands and parameters used by these commands. Paths support straight lines, circular arcs, quadratic and cubic Bezier curves. This is full-on graphic artist, computer graphics stuff. Okay, so let's just see what this example looks like. Let's copy it. Let's go over to CSORs, paste it in. What do we get? Looks like a sine wave. Okay, but it's not. It's just a signal points, but it's using some various properties. Okay, and I don't know what all that means exactly, but with a set of points that produce this nice looking curve. Okay, you need a computer graphics class to learn all about those Bezier curves and stuff like that. Okay, you can put text in SVG. Okay, so with all that, and you can place it where you want it. Okay, they tell you where you're going to start the text and such like that. Okay, you can do lots of interesting things with it. This is an art class. So that gives you a quick overview of SVG. We can work with it just as we work with HTML. We'll be able to style it, and we'll have a DOM access to it. It means programmatic access from JavaScript, so we can do things. Okay, great. Talk to you later.